So what is up, guys? Soon as Savage back, and today I am here with my 2019 MLB Postseason Prediction video. Now, as always, well, as I did last year, instead of using a paper bracket, I use one of these, the MLB the helmet bracket. I bought this at a Blue Jays game last year. It was like $20. It's a pretty good pickup. I keep track of the standings throughout the year. You have one side that's the standings, and you have the other side, which is the postseason bracket. But anyways, today I'm going to be doing my 2019 MLB Postseason Prediction video. Now, just to reiterate how the playoffs work, so there's the American League and the National League. Now, each league has three divisions: the East, Central, and West. And there's one winner from each division. So the AL West, it was the Astros, the AL East was the Yankees, and the AL Central was the Twins. And then there were the two wildcard teams that didn't win the division but had the best record that was not a division winner. So that is the Oakland Athletics and the Tampa Bay Rays. And then you have the other side, the NL. You got the Dodgers, who won the West, the Braves, who won the East, the Cardinals, who won the Central. Then you have the Nationals and the Brewers, who were the wild card teams. Now, as always, the wild card game is best out of 1. The division series is best out of 5. And then the championship series and the World Series is both out of 7. So I'm about to get started with this video, and as always, we're going to go in chronological order. I'll start with the wild card, then I'll just work my way up. Now we have our very first matchup, which is the Milwaukee Brewers versus the Washington Nationals. This game is taking place at National Stadium in D.C. So let's get this started out with the Brewers, the away team. So a big part of their team was Christian Yelich. And unfortunately for the Brewers, Yelich is out for the season after having an MVP-like season. And that's okay, because in their 15 games without Yelich at the end of the year, they ended up going 13-2. And even without Yelich, they still have a ton of power. Guys like Mike Moustakas, Yasmani Grandal, Eric Thames, Ryan Braun. And then you have Keston Hiura, who got 19 home runs in just about 83 games. That's pretty good. And their pitching is okay. Their pitching is just average. Guys like Jimmy Nelson, Gio Gonzalez, Brandon Woodruff, but their big pitcher is Josh Hader. Josh Hader last year was just an innings eater. I know Hader's taken a bit of a step down, but he's still amazing. One of the best relievers, best closer in the league. But if I still find a problem with this team, well, one of them, it's their bullpen. I know I talked about Josh Hader and how he's an amazing pitcher, but other than Hader, you really don't have anyone else in the bullpen. You got Junior Guerra, but that's about it. It's just not. Honestly, Hader is not enough. If teams start to crack Hader or find Hader's weakness, the Brewers will not have an easy road to the World Series. And also, this team is one of the most undisciplined teams in MLB, because this year they struck out 1,563 times. That is 5th. They ranked 5th in times they've struck out. That is the highest, except they are number 1 in all teams that qualified for the playoffs. I know they have great power, but they also have to have good discipline if they want to make it far. And then you have the Washington Nationals. A bit of a shock because, after getting rid of a lot of guys last year, this team was not projected to go anywhere, especially losing Bryce Harper. But this team somehow shocked us, and they made it to the playoffs as the first wild card team. You have a pretty good pitching trio in Scherzer, Patrick Corbin, Steven Strasburg. They're all very lethal pitchers, and they're also a very fast team. Guys like Trey Turner, Victor Robles, Adam Eaton, Juan Soto. And then you got Anthony Rendon, who had a bit of a breakout year. I mean, he came out of nowhere, and a lot like the Brewers, one of their big weaknesses is the bullpen. Their bullpen ERA was 5.70, the second worst in baseball. And their closer, Sean Doolittle, nowhere near as effective as Hader, and he's kind of dropped off. And honestly, the one thing I question about this team is their power. I know they got a lot of fast guys, but sometimes power really matters. And also, this is Washington. The question is, how are they going to blow it? No, really, I'm being serious. If you look at their past as the Nationals and even the Expos, they've always been known for choking. They've never won a proper playoff series in their existence. I mean, you could count the one time they won back in 1981. That's when they're the Expos. As the Nationals, they never won a playoff series. They came close, but in 2012, Game 5, 6-0 lead, they blew it. Beating in 2017, they were easily supposed to dominate the Cubs, but in Game 5, they completely choked. 2016, choked, and 2014, choked. Like, this team, I just don't trust, and that is why the Brewers are going to win this game and will go to LA to face the Dodgers. I'm sorry, but my biggest problem is I just don't trust the Nationals, knowing with what they've done in the past. And don't forget, this is the wild card game. It's just one game. It's do or die. And Washington's never been good in the most clutch game of the season. And that's why I'm going with the Brewers to win this. We have our very next wild card matchup between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Oakland Athletics, as this game takes place in Oakland, in one of the worst MLB stadiums. Like, this wild card match, in terms of the stadium, it's one of the worst combos, because either you're playing in Oakland or you're playing in Tampa. Both of them have some of the worst MLB stadiums, but that doesn't matter. I mean, stadium does kind of matter. But anyways, we're going to start off with the Rays. This team, with what I've seen this year, they're all pitching. Like, pitching is literally everything that the Rays are. Like, their offense is just okay, but when I look at it, starting off with their pitching, you know, they got a pretty decent triple threat in Charlie Morton, Blake Snell, and Tyler Glasnow. Now, Morton had himself a very good 2017 World Series run with the Astros, and he had himself a very good season as well with the Rays. Now, Blake Snell, I know he stepped down from his AL Cy Young year last year, but but of course, Blake Snell can pull this off. Tyler Glasnow, you know, he had some very good numbers in September, and looking at the Rays, their ERA is 3.65, which is second in the MLB. That's amazing, knowing that this team has one of the lowest payrolls. But if there's always a weakness, it's their power hitting. Like, who do they have? Like, Austin Meadows, sure, he did club 33 home runs, but other than that, you don't really have anyone else. You got G-Man Choi, inconsistent, Kevin Kiermaier, Tommy Pham, Brandon Lowe. Like, this team is not meant to be powerful. They're meant to be pitching, and honestly, if they can't get their hitting down, that could make them very vulnerable in October. And then you have the Oakland Athletics. Both these teams, once again, a low payroll, but they're very powerful too. I mean, they're more powerful, especially with guys like Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, and of course, Chris Davis. And their bullpen, the back of the bullpen's been very good this year. Liam Hendricks nearly got DFA'd, but of course he did come back. He is now the closer for the Oakland Athletics, and he had himself a very good year. And Yusmeiro Petit, you know, he couldn't really he had trouble being a starter, but he was able to be a very good reliever. And if a few weaknesses, to be honest, when it comes to speed, I don't really care. Like, you may not be the fastest team, but speed is always a weakness, but it doesn't matter. But starting pitching could be a very big problem in October. Because you see, their big three guys are Sean Manaea, Mike Fiers, and Brett Anderson. Fiers and Anderson are inconsistent as all can be. And then you got Sean Manaea. You know, he missed the first 5 months, but then he returned, had himself a very good September, and now he's getting the start on the wild card game. Now, once again, it's a one-game series. It doesn't matter. Like, you could have a very bad pitching rotation, but don't forget, it's one game that you're playing, which is why I think the Athletics will win and the Rays will be sent packing. So now we move on to the NLDS with our first matchup that takes place, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Atlanta Braves. Now, the St. Louis Cardinals, to be honest, I think they're very lucky to be a third seed, because most of it was in part to the Cubs completely choking at the end of the year, going on a 9-game losing streak. And then you had the Brewers, who got swept by the Rockies to end the season, as if Milwaukee didn't get swept to end the year, they would have been able to possibly force a game 163 or win the division. But of course, St. Louis made it in nonetheless. Now, strengths that they have, speed, I don't really care about speed, but they have a very quality bullpen, and guys like Giovanni Gallegos, John Brepa, Tyler Webb, John Gant, Daniel Ponce de Leon, and Ryan Hesley. They posted an ERA of 3.67, very similar numbers that the Rays put up with their bullpen. And this team, I have found a lot of weaknesses. First off, their offense. Like, their offense was not the greatest this year. in terms of batting average, they ranked 23rd with a .245 at batting average combined. And then in terms of home runs, they're not exactly the most powerful team. They're ranked 24th in home runs. To be honest, the Cardinals are down in the bottom 10 in terms of offense, but of course their defense. I mean, their rotation depth is okay. I mean, Jack Flaherty had himself an amazing end to the season. Same with Dakota Hudson, but then you got the three behind them. Miles Mikolas, who had an amazing season last year, Adam Wainwright, and Michael Wacha. These guys are just completely mediocre. And then you move on to the Braves. To be honest, last year the Braves were what I call a year too early because, well, they weren't really meant to be a playoff team. I mean, due to the process, this was supposed to be their first year that they would make the playoffs and actually have World Series contention. But of course, last year they made it in, but absolutely no experience, and they got a reality check by the Dodgers. But this year, a little more experience, and they're big. This team is all about offense. It's guys like Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna Jr., and Josh Donaldson making a comeback after his tenure with Toronto, his 2018 year with Toronto. Like, the offense has bounce, I mean, in terms of average with guys like Albies and Freeman, nearly hitting for 300, but they also got power. Acuna, 41 home runs, Freeman, 38, Donaldson, 37, and of course, their power is amazing. But to be honest, the big thing I question is their starting pitching. Like, they got Mike Soroka, and that's about it. He actually was an NL Cy Young candidate, finished with a 2.60 ERA, but that's good, but you need a bit of depth for pitchers. I mean, Dallas Keuchel hasn't been the same since he left Houston, and then Julio Teheran has never really been an ace. Like, this matchup could honestly go either way, but don't forget, this is a series. And to be honest, I'm going to say the Braves are going to win this in 5 over the Cardinals. Because the Cardinals pull off some kind of miracle run most of the time they make the playoffs. But this time, they're going to get stopped early by the Braves. You move on to our next NLDS matchup, which is a rematch of the 2018 NLCS between the LA Dodgers and the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, I'm going to start off with the Brewers again. I already touched base about them. They got a pretty good roster. But this time, instead of playing just one wildcard game, they're going to be playing in a series, and with that pitching depth, there's just too many questions. Like, their pitching is not the greatest. Like, it's very average, but going up against a powerhouse team like the Dodgers could not end well. Like, sure, Hader can only do so much, and eventually last year, the Dodgers, Cody Bellinger has been the guy that found the secret to Hader. He was the guy that stopped Hader. The Dodgers ended up stopping Hader from having masterful performances, and that led to the Brewers' demise. So, offense is still amazing, but against a pitch. But since they are so undisciplined at the plate, I have a hard time seeing them going up against the pitching of the Dodgers, who they got Hyunjin Ryu, who is definitely a Cy Young candidate, who is probably going to win Cy Young, 2.32 ERA. I mean, he's still got. Sorry, I'm a little sick, but I'm still filming. But anyways, he's still got a pretty good pitching depth with Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw, and Rich Hill. But I do question Kershaw since he's never been known to perform well in the playoffs. And this year he had a bit of a down year, so maybe a down year in the season could be an up year in the postseason. I don't know, but power is mainly what these guys do. They got guys like Cody Bellinger, Jock Peterson, Max Muncy, Corey Seager. Like, this team is power. Like, they got the perfect starting lineup in terms of pitching and hitting. But in terms of bullpen, Kenley Jansen has been incredibly inconsistent this year. Like, for a guy who was one of the best relievers, finished with a 3.71 ERA. That's not good. Like, to be honest, I question Kenley Jansen's consistency. But but the Dodgers will have enough to sweep the Brewers. I think the Dodgers will sweep the Brewers and move on to the NLCS again for the 4th straight year. Fourth? Yeah, 4th straight year. And I swear to God, they're gonna blow it again. Now you have our very next matchup, which now we switch over to the AL with the Minnesota Twins versus the New York Yankees. Now, The Twins were a bit of a shock to me this season, you know. My dad, like, they had a very good start in April. My dad says they're not keeping that up. There's no way they can keep it up. And now my dad can eat it, as they got over 100 wins this year and are in the playoffs. And this team looks very dangerous, especially in terms of offense. This year they set the record for home runs hit with 307. With guys like Nelson Cruz, Luis Arraez, Jason Castro, Jake Cave. Like, Nelson Cruz was just unstoppable at the plate this year. And, you know, they got some guys that can also hit for average as well. Jorge Polanco, Eddie Rosario, Mitch Garver. But something that I do like that I've seen about this team is they're very disciplined. They were 25th in times they struck out this year. A team putting up 307 home runs, that's pretty good. But if I want to find a weakness, well, their pitching is just average. Their starting pitching rotation is Jose Berrios, Jake Odorizzi. I mean, they had Michael Pineda, but he got suspended. He's not coming back. And then you move on to the New York Yankees. You know, this team was as hyped up as it would be, but most of the time this year they were playing with guys that were injured. They had a lot of key injuries, but a lot like the Twins, they also had power. They hit 306 home runs this year. Guys like DJ LeMahieu, Mike Tauchman, Mike Ford, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Brett Gardner, and Gleyber Torres. But sadly, they will be without Gary Sanchez for this postseason. Their bullpen, well, at least the back of it's pretty good. The killer three, Aroldis Chapman, Adam Ottavino, and Zach Britton. But if I do have to find a weakness, it's their starting pitching. Like, their pitchers have taken a huge step back. Guys like Tanaka, Happ, and Paxton. This team was supposed to look like they would have one of the deadliest pitching rotations, but honestly, they were terrible. Like, honestly, Tanaka, Happ, and Paxton just had down seasons. And in terms of plate discipline, they were 14th in strikeouts, which isn't bad. Like, they're above average, but needs a little work. But at least they're not as undisciplined as the Brewers. Now, some of you might call me crazy, but I'm calling the ultimate upset. I'm going to say that the Minnesota Twins will win this series in 4. To me, that's going to be my upset, the biggest upset of the postseason. Then you have our very last matchup in the division series between the Oakland Athletics and the Houston Astros. Now, I'm going to start off with the Athletics. You know, they did win, as I predict, they're going to win the wild card game, but against a team, like, this team has given Houston a little bit of trouble this year. Like, if there's one team that was able to mess with Houston, it was the Athletics. You know, they're very powerful, guys like Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, but don't forget, this is a 5-game series, so there are starting pitchers with Mike Fiers, Sean Manaea, and Brett Anderson is a huge question mark, because this isn't just one game they're playing. They have to play at least at max a 5-game series against the Astros. And with that kind of pitching, I don't think they could do it. But then we move on to the Astros, to me, who are the perfect team. No joke, because this is what they got. One of the most disciplined team in the MLB. Despite being one of the top offenses, they ranked 30th in times that they struck out, which is just amazing. And they have maybe the deadliest 3-man rotation in baseball. And mainly the two guys that have done it all are Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole. Now, I know they did lose Dallas Keuchel over the last season, but they did bring in Zach Greinke at the trade deadline at a fly-low rate. Like, that's just incredible. Like, in terms of pitching, this team's amazing, but when you look at the offense, that's when things get exciting. Because this team, they ranked 3rd in home runs, and they also ranked 1st in batting average. So this team is the most complete team to me. Guys like Alex Bregman, Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Yordan Alvarez, who had himself an amazing rookie year, George Springer, Yuli Gurriel. Like, this team, I think, is the team that's going to go all the way. Now, and their biggest weakness, people say, is speed, but who cares? They're so good. Now, I know the Athletics have given the Astros trouble this season, but I'm going to say Astros are going to win this one in 4 games. And now we have our NLCS, which is going to be the Atlanta Braves versus the LA Dodgers. Now let's get back to the Braves. Of course, have one of the best offenses in the league, but at the same time, so do the Dodgers. The Dodgers, both these teams have very good offenses. Guys like Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, Acuna, Donaldson, and then for the Dodgers, you got guys like Peterson, Bellinger, Muncy, Seager. But I'll be honest, when it comes down to this match, I feel like offense is going to be good enough. But it's really just going to be who's going to have the better pitching. Will it be the Braves with guys like Mike Soroka, as he is a Cy Young candidate? And will Dallas Keuchel and Julio Teheran end up being able to duel out with the the Dodgers? And then you have the Dodgers, who the big question mark of the postseason is Kenley Jansen. And as always, Clayton Kershaw will be a very big question mark. And the Dodgers last year, their pitching, the past 2 years, their pitching got exposed to great offenses, guys against teams like the Astros and the Red Sox. And honestly, the Dodgers, to me, have had plenty of chances to win it. 2016, they lost to a very good Cubs squad against the Astros. They came close, but unfortunately, they didn't play well in Game 7, the most important game of the series. And then against the Red Sox, they just were no match. Like, their pitching, one of the best pitching teams in the league, just got completely exposed. And if I want to pick a winner for this one, it's going to be my number 2 upset. The Braves, I think, are going to go to the World Series. They're going to stun the Dodgers and win the series in 7 at Dodger Stadium. So my pick is the Braves will be representing the National League in the World Series. And then you have the ALCS, which this year I'm predicting will be the Minnesota Twins and the Houston Astros. Now, starting off with the Twins, this team, it's all power. It's all in the offense, and that's pretty much it for these guys. I know they did set a record with 307 home runs, but my biggest question for them is, would their pitching be able to keep up with an offense like the Astros, which, to me, as always, is the most complete and stacked MLB roster, offense. And in terms of pitching, it all comes down to me, who has the better pitching. And in this case, it's the Astros. I think guys like Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, and Zach Greinke, they can shut down Nelson Cruz. They can shut down one of the best offenses in the league. The Astros, they are one of the best offensive teams in the league, but they're also one of the best defensive teams in the league. Like I said, to me, they are the most complete team. I don't think anyone is better than the Astros. The Twins could give them a bit of a run for their money, I think the Athletics will, but in the end, I just don't think that the Twins will have the horsepower to continue going up against a team like the Astros. I think their pitching, the Twins' pitching is just too much of a question mark, which is why I'm going to say Houston will go to the World Series as they win it in 5 games. And now here it is, the moment we've all been waiting for, my World Series prediction. And if you've been paying attention to this video, which I hope you have been, but I know you will, so this is what my World Series is. Atlanta Braves will be representing the National League, and the Houston Astros will be representing the American League. So, let's talk about them. So when you go back, and when I talked about the Braves, I always talked about how they had one of the better offenses in the league. Guys like Albies, Freeman, Acuna, Donaldson, and all those guys, they're very balanced, but they're also very powerful. But of course, the biggest question that I have about the Braves is their starting pitching. Of course, Mike Soroka is going to make a decent dent, will try to make a good dent into the Houston Astros, and Dallas Keuchel makes his return to face Houston, but will it be enough to take down the Astros? Let's go to the Astros, and I pulled up a couple of statistics in terms of hitting and pitching. So, of course, when it comes to plate discipline, the Braves are a little bit more undisciplined. They ranked 11th in time struck out with 1,467 In terms of home runs, they ranked 8th, and in batting average, they ranked just about 9th. So they have a very good offensive unit. But here's the thing about Houston. They ranked 1st in average, 3rd in home runs hit. They ranked 30th in time struck out, which is the best stat, to me, of all, with an offense like that. Houston ranked 3rd in ERA, 1st in batters average against, 2nd in whip, and in terms of, and honestly, and that's about it. Like, the Astros, to me, are just too good. Like, sure, you got the offense for guys like Altuve, Springer, Correa, Yuli Gurriel, but of course, they're not just offense. They're also pitching with guys like Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, and finally, Zach Greinke. And they barely gave up anything to get him. So, to me, this team is still the strongest MLB team. And I think the Houston Astros will win the World Series in 6 games because, to be honest, Houston hosts it, and it will go back to Houston as the Astros will win the World Series. And in terms of World Series MVP, I'm going to go Alex Bregman. So before I go to the outro, I'm just going to do a quick recap. So a lot like my 2018 MLB Postseason Predictions, links in the description below, make sure to go check it out. I'm going to be giving myself a point for every prediction I get correct in terms of teams that won the series and in how many games the series took. Now, I'm not going to give myself a point for every wild card prediction because it's only 1 game. But say I got my prediction that the Houston Astros would win in 5 games over the Athletics. I predicted 4. I would get 1 point for the Astros winning, but I would not get a point because I said it would happen in 4 when it actually happened in 5. But say the Braves won in 7, I would get a point for the Braves winning, and I would get a point for the Braves winning it in 7. Now, maybe say Washington won the wild card game. I wouldn't get a point at all because I said the Brewers. But just as a recap, I said the Athletics would beat the Rays in the wild card game. Same with the Brewers as they would beat the Nationals. And Twins would beat the Yankees in 4. Same with the Astros. Astros would beat A's in 4. And then Braves would beat the Cardinals in 5. And the Dodgers would sweep the Brewers and win in 3. And then in the championship series, I got the Astros beating the Twins in 5. And the Braves winning over the Dodgers in 7. And then the World Series, I got Houston winning it in 6. And now to the outro. That is my video for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching this. If you want to see my other postseason prediction, I'm going to leave a link to that in the description below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, comment down below what else you want to see. Tell me, and also in the comments, tell me who you think is going to win the World Series, who's going to win each series, and then how many games as well. Make sure to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat at StudentSavage. Thank y'all for watching. Have a great day. And of course, go Stros. They're my pick. But no one will be the Blue Jays. Anyways, peace